Good day, everyone. I am Jobilito Surigao, a BSIE-IV student from Visayas State University, Isabel. So I have a capstone project entitled The Prevalence of Work-Related Musculoskeletal Disorder Among the Vendors at Isabel New Wet Market. So for introduction, ergonomics is one of the essential components of safety practices around the country. And many firms have begun implementing effective ergonomic practices in various workspaces according to Brody 2008. So this study was motivated by the need for research into practical methods for defining and analyzing the ergonomic risk factors present in a job associated with work-related musculoskeletal disorders. So Isabel is a first-class municipality in Leyte, so it has 24 barangays and is located by the seaside. So it is a home to a diverse range of businesses. So one notable business is the New Wet Market, offering fresh and healthy livestock, including eggs, meat, dried fish, seafood, vegetables, and fruits. So the vendors reported work-related musculoskeletal issues such as back pain, leg cramps, shoulder pain, stiff neck due to prolonged standing and tasks. So to relieve the pain, so they have to use the pain relievers and liniment oil. So this study aims to assess the vendor's discomfort and pain in relation to their task, provide solution based on an ergonomic assessment to reduce work-related musculoskeletal diseases, and prevent ergonomic risk factors leading to severe disorder and decrease of productivity. So for the objective of the study, first, identify the demographic characteristic of the vendors. Second is to determine the physical, environmental, equipment, and tool factors that primarily affect the health of the vendors. Third is to identify the most affected body region of all the vendors. Fourth is to determine the ergonomic risk factors of all the vendors. Fifth, determine if there is a significant relationship between the ergonomic risk assessment results and demographic characteristics. And lastly, as the established programs and recommendations to reduce the pain and discomfort of the vendors. So for the significance of the study, first, the market vendors, they will be aware of the level of the risk exposed in their work and will also correct their posture to avoid pain and discomfort, thereby preventing severe injuries. Second are the local government units or LGUs. Plan and design a safe working space and develop programs to mitigate the vendor's exposure to risk. Next is the market customers. The customers are satisfied with the excellent performance and productivity of the vendors. Due to the improved service provided by the market vendors, the customer of the market will be more satisfied with the service they receive from the vendors. And the researcher expanded his knowledge in the field of ergonomics, with a particular focus on postural analysis, while simultaneously enhancing its critical thinking skills and interpreting the data. And lastly, the future researcher. The data and information provided in this research might allow future to focus on topics that might further improve the vendor's workplace. For the scope and limitation of the study, this study assessed the physical risk faced by the vendors at Isabel New Wet Market in Isabel Leyte. Over a span of 20 days, observations were made on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 8 to 6 p.m. The focus was work-related muscular disorders among seafood, dried fish, meat, and vegetable vendors. The factors such as demographic, physical, equipment, and tools were considered as the data collected through the observation and survey questionnaires. For Chapter 2, or the review of related literature, the physical ergonomics fell in a major emphasis of Young's sample thesis from 2019. Musculoskeletal disorders, or MSDs, are the most prevalent workspace illness in the European Union, with increasing tendency in several European nations, according to Schlitter et al. 2010. Then next is according to Yama et al. 2017, there is a substantial correlation between the age, years of experience, working hours, and the prevalence of work-related musculoskeletal illnesses. The self-observational methods and quantitative matrix are the major three categories of risk evaluation approaches for the ergonomics research and practices according to Prince et al. 2008. The research gap of this study, is focused on assessing the work posture among the various occupational groups and implementing safety programs using ergonomic assessment tools. So the objectives include the identifying of the hazards, introducing musculoskeletal injury, risk, improving worker safety and well-being, and enhancing workplace ergonomics. So the intervention may involve safety programs, training and addressing vendors' posture to ensure their health and safety during work. So the next chapter is the chapter 3 or the conceptual framework. So as you can see in the figure, so the independent and independent variable as well as their connections are shown in this figure. So this study investigated the element and needed to establish solutions for enhancing their workplace and the vendors exposed body parts that often experience discomfort. So for chapter 4 or methodology of the study, so the research design utilizes a service study design. So it's implicitly employing a cross-sectional design. So the data is collected through observations and questionnaires from the respondents or the public vendors. So for the research respondents, so this study includes 21 vendors with a minimum of 3 years of working experience. So the vendors are divided into 4 groups. So these are the seafood vendors, dried fish vendors, meat vendors, and vegetable vendors. So for our research instruments, so we have the Nordic Musculoskeletal Questionnaire or NMQ. So the study utilizes NMQ to identify the areas of pain and discomfort in the body. Then next is the Rapid Entire Body Assessment or REBA. So it is an ergonomic assessment tool that utilizes a straightforward postural analysis technique to efficiently evaluate job tasks that involve uncomfortable postural exertions. And the next research instrument is the Rapid Upper Limb Assessment or RULA. So it is an ergonomic assessment tool designed to identify ergonomic risk factors associated with musculoskeletal disorders in the upper limbs. Next is the QEC or Quick Exposure Check. So it assesses the exposure of the 4 body areas at most significant risk to the most critical risk factors for WMSDs or work-related musculoskeletal disorder. And lastly is the NIOSH lifting equation. So the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health or NIOSH. So it is an ergonomic assessment tool used to evaluate the physical lifting ergonomic risk connected to lifting and lowering activities at work. Next is the research validation. So in conducting this study, the researcher presented a letter for a formality to Market Office Isabel and personally asked permission to the vendors and its owner. Then, the data gathering procedure. So the researcher will interview the vendors individually. So using the NMQ and the QEC to collect the data. So the interview will take 10 to 15 minutes per vendor. So the researcher will record a video of the vendor task to analyze the body movement and the posture using the ergonomic assessment tools. So such as the REBA, RULA, and the NIOSH. So the interview and videos will be conducted with vendor permission and data will be confidentially and used for study purposes. Then the chapter 5 are the result and discussion. So as you can see in the figure, so the NMQ result for seafood vendors. So most of the seafood vendors experience pain and discomfort in almost part of the body except for the elbows and knees. So they are vulnerable to pain in the entire body, particularly the shoulder and back, since they use those parts to perform the seafood vendors' primary tasks such as chopping and lifting associated with prolonged standing. The next is the NMQ result for dried fish vendors. So all of the dried fish vendors are experiencing pain and discomfort primarily in the upper and lower back, as you can see in the figure. So they often suffer from neck, shoulders, knees, ankles, or feet pain. So they suffer more pain and discomfort with those body parts because their task is more on displaying dried fish and usually stay on the seat. The next is the NMQ result for the meat vendors. So all the meat vendors experience pain and discomfort primarily in the ankle and feet, as you can see in the figure. So However, they also frequently suffer pain in other parts of their body, so excluding the elbow and wrist hand. So this result indicates that the meat vendors, due to their primary task of frequent meat chopping and regular standing, they will feel pain and discomfort in various body parts. Next is the NMQ result for the vegetable vendors. So all vegetable vendors experience pain and discomfort, primarily in the neck and left wrist hand. So shoulder pain is a common complaint, so likely caused by the repetitive lifting and reaching motion involved in their work. So moreover, right wrist or hand discomfort can arise due to the repetitive nature of their slicing and packaging task. Next is the rest factor result of the vendors. So as you can see in the figure, so it shows the vendors' responses to various physical factors that may influence their body pain and discomfort. So the highest sub-factors to which the vendors responded is the awkward working posture, with 15 vendors selecting it. So due to their concern for their work, the vendors cannot maintain their normal posture when they in a hurry to accommodate all the customers. So however, the vendors unanimously agreed that all the presented physical factors could influence their pain and discomfort in every part of their body as they exposed to physical demanding work. Then next is the environmental factors response. So as you can see in the figure present, so the vendors selecting various environmental factors that may influence their body pain and discomfort. So the highest sub-factors the vendors responded to was is the air temperature, with 12 vendors selecting it. So high or low air temperature surrounding, according to them, can cause discomfort to their body. Next is the equipment and tool factors response. So in the figure, it illustrates the vendors' choices of various equipment and tool sub-factors that may influence their body pain and discomfort. So the highest sub-factors to which the vendors response is the excessive force. So with 9 vendors selecting it, so it is due to the strength they exert when using the tools, particularly the seafood and meat vendors who utilizes chopping tools like knives and applied excessive force to the chopping fish and meat. Next is the ergonomic assessment result. So it is for the seafood vendors. So as you can see in the figure, so the result of the ergonomic assessment tools indicate the seafood vendors are all high risk due to awkward posture, particularly in the upper body. So they are also exposed to high levels of strain in the back, so shoulder or arm, and wrist or hand, so area. So the further investigation and prompt modification in work design are necessary. So moderate exposure levels were observed in the neck and stress areas, so while vibration and the workspace exposure were low. So the lifting tasks pose a medium risk, emphasizing the need for addressing load factors and reduce the potential for lifting injuries. Next is for the ergonomic assessment result for dried fish vendors. So the ergonomic assessment result tools. So the dried fish vendors have low risk on overall, so according to the REBA and roll assessment. Then, however, attention should be given high exposure in areas such as the back, neck, and shoulder, arm. So further investigation and work design modification are recommended to reduce the strain in these areas. Then the wrist, hand, vibration, workplace stress exposure are classified as low. So the noise lifting equation, so they have also a low risk. For the ergonomic assessment result for meat vendors, so ergonomic assessment tools indicates that meat vendors face medium risk due to poor posture and high exposure in the back, shoulder, arm, and neck areas. So further investigation and prompt modification in work design are necessary to prevent more severe injuries. So moderate risks are observed in stress levels, while wrist and hand vibration and workspace exposure are low. So the lifting task pose into medium risk, so particularly for back pain. So it is a crucial to address poor posture. So for the ergonomic assessment result for vegetable vendors, so the assessment result of the vegetable vendor suggests that while they exhibit low risk according to REBA and ROLA assessment, so further attention should be given to certain areas, so such as the neck exposure, back, wrist and hand exposure, and also the shoulder arm exposure. So their vibration levels, work pace, and stress exposure also contribute to a relatively favorable work environment. The next is the significant correlation variables of seafood vendors. So as you can see, the study identifies the significant relationship between the age, work experience, weight, working hours, and ergonomic assessment results among seafood vendors. So these findings can provide insights and potential risk factors and inform interventions to improve the safety and well-being of the seafood vendors. So next is the significant correlation variables for dried fish vendors. So the study identified the significant relationship between the weight, height, pain level, working hours, and various ergonomic assessment results such as result among the dried fish vendors. So these findings provide a valuable insight into potential impact of these variables on the vendors. The next is the meat vendors. So the study identified the significant relationship between weight, pain level, work experience, age, height, and various ergonomic assessment result among the meat vendors. So also the findings provide valuable insights and into the potential impact of these variables on the vendors. And lastly, the significant correlation variables of the vegetable vendors. So the findings from the assessment of vegetable vendors highlights the impact of age on musculoskeletal risk, the association between weight and pain level, and the relationship between standing hours and shoulder or arm exposure, so as well as the neck exposure. So this insight emphasizes the need for intervention to address ergonomic risk, promote weight management, and provide support for reducing the impact of prolonged standing on the shoulder, arm, and neck health of the vegetable vendors. So for the possible intervention through the vendor's opinion, so the intervention derived from the opinion of various as shown in the figure. So as you can see, so the top selected option include the awareness campaign and the training programs on occupational safety health or OSH. So the objective is to educate the vendors about the importance of maintaining a healthy and safe working environment and prevent severe injuries and minimize discomfort. And next is the chapter 6, or the summary, implication, and recommendation of this study. So the summary, so this study investigates ergonomic risk and associated factors among the vendors, so aiming to address musculoskeletal disorders can affect productivity and overall health. So the study aims to identify the demographic characteristics, determine the factors impacting the vendors' health, identify affected body regions, assessing ergonomic risk, explore relationship between risk assessment results and demographic, and establish recommendation to reduce vendor pain and discomfort. So primarily tasks of seafood, dried fish, meat, and vegetable vendors are described. So findings reveal patterns of pain and discomfort in different body parts of each vendor's group. So risk factors analysis shows vendors are primarily exposed to vendors factors that contribute to pain and discomfort, and ergonomic assessment tools indicate varying risk levels among vendors. So the relationship between variables are discussed, highlighting the significant relationships. So finally, interventions favored by vendors, including awareness campaign and training programs, are identified as the key strategy to enhance the vendor's knowledge and promote the safe working environment. The next is the implication. So the study finding reveals work-related risk among vendors. That NMQ shows vendors experience pain lasting 24 hours. REBA indicates high risk for seafood vendors, medium risk for meat vendors, and low risk for dried fish and vegetable vendors. So RULA shows medium risk for seafood and meat vendors, low risk for vegetable vendors, and negligible risk for dried fish vendors. Then the QSC highlights varying levels of exposure from low to very high. So in different body parts, so the noise lifting equation classified seafood and meat vendors as medium risk, while the dried fish and vegetable vendors are low risk. So the study findings suggest that vendors' posture possesses a risk for MSDs, so leading to discomfort and potential injuries. So failure to address these issues can impact their health and work performance and increase the absenteeism of them. The next is the recommendation of the study. So the researcher recommends that a local government unit or LGU of the Isabel municipality implement programs such as awareness campaign for a safe workplace and training programs specifically for occupational health and safety or OSH programs to address the issues faced by vendors in their daily work activities. Research has shown that implementing workplace safety and OSH programs can improve safety knowledge and performance outcomes. So the ergonomic risk assessment results indicate medium to high risk level for seafood and meat vendors. So it will lead to specific recommendations to mitigate risk without additional cost. So these recommendations include providing ergonomic knives, non-slip cutting boards, anti-fatigue mats, and ergonomic aprons and gloves, improving the ventilation and providing guidance on appropriate clothing and recommendation to address the temperature-related concern. Then, the implementation of this measure can help reduce the ergonomic risk, improve working condition, and promote the well-being and productivity of the vendors. So that's all of my study. So thank you for your listening.